when God created us as human beings, He created us to be replications of who He is. And the Bible says in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And I often say to people that the earth and the heavens have the same birth date. And so it is impossible to function effectively on the earth without consulting with the heavens. And when you think about that, God made us to be connecting points between the earth and the heavens. And that's why with everything that God has ever done on earth, He usually requires a man. Not because He's not all powerful, but because the man is meant to be the gatekeeper between the earth and the heavens. And just the configuration of our bodies. We are spirits, we are souls, and we are bodies. Within that configuration is the ability to engage with the physical earth and the capacity to also open the gates of the heavens into the earth. So I'm listening to Augustine talking about how he did it. And it wasn't because he took one more great course. It wasn't just because he, began to fed himself, confessions and meditation. But there had to be a place where there was alignment between the three components of his being. And at that point, he was able to shift things on earth because he first shifted it in the heavenly realms. The other thing I thought about was, how the Bible says in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Actually, when you look at that word for beginning, the Hebrew word is also mind and head. So in the head of God, He created the heavens and the earth. And that's why when you look at the creation story in Genesis 1, sometimes it's kind of conflicting. You're like, okay, what did He create first? How come did He, it's actually because it's recounting the things that God thought about and then the things that God made. And so you realize that it's impossible to create like God until you first master the realm of the mind and your head, how you think. And you go back into the story of Adam and Eve, and you look at the Garden of Eden, and you realize that the temptation wasn't, Eve, drink alcohol or do this. It was actually a temptation of the mind. And it says, God says we should do not, did God really say you should not eat this fruit? And so Satan is constantly trying to overstretch the boundaries of grace allocated by God. And sometimes we underestimate what obedience really looks like. And so obedience is not just, this master saying you must do what I want, but obedience is what keeps you secured and what preserves your inheritance. And so I don't obey God because, I'm afraid of God. I fear God, I have the fear of God, but I obey God because I understand that I have been given this real estate in the spirit realm and in the physical realm. And what keeps my borders secured is my ability to stay within the standards allocated by the one who gave me the real estate. And so Satan is eat the fruit or don't eat the fruit. But the thing is, that tree was called the tree of knowledge. So you realize that everything in humanity rises or falls on what you know, how you think, how do you imagine it, And so I'm listening to Augustine talking about how he changed his mind, about what was possible. And then, he's sitting in your program and he's learning all of these things. And so his knowledge base changed. And so his wealth changed, and I just think about, everything that God has called us to do and to be, and how it feels almost impossible. Because from the moment we came into this world, we're engaging with the spirit of rebellion that already existed, through the fall of Lucifer. But I feel like there's a power in holiness and a power in righteousness that gives you the ability to actually subdue. And that is when you start to build lasting structures. So God is not just a being we worship. God is the well of intelligence. He is the eternal spring of life. He is the greatest creator that has ever existed. He's the best builder, and he builds with so much accuracy that even the earth and the heavens obey him. And I think that if we have God on our side, we ourselves should be builders, and we should have this power to intelligently design systems that have the capacity to multiply themselves through creation.